When I arrived at the address, a sprawling mansion nestled in the hills, I felt a flutter of excitement. The kind you get before a celebration, when the world feels light and full of promise. The house was glowing, windows lit like lanterns, against the night sky. Music thumped faintly through the walls, and laughter echoed somewhere in the distance. I stepped out of my car, smoothing down my dress. My gift bag hung from one hand, a bottle of wine and a card that simply said, "Thanks for being you." I still wasn't sure who it was for, but I figured it'd make sense once I was inside. The front door was slightly ajar. Odd. But I pushed it open and walked in. Instantly, I knew something was off. There were no balloons, no streamers. No one shouted, "Surprise!" Instead, the air was thick, almost humid. The lights were dim, casting shadows along the walls. The music was heavier than expected, slow, sensual, with a beat that seemed to echo in my chest. I paused in the entryway, uncertain. People were everywhere, but they weren't mingling like a typical party crowd. They were watching, moving slowly, deliberately. Conversations murmured low, laced with tension I couldn't define. And then I saw him. Ryan. Standing by the stairs, shirtless, like a sculpture carved from confidence. His eyes locked onto mine. I felt it then. A shift. This wasn't the party I thought I was walking into. It was something else entirely. Ryan didn't move at first. He just watched me, his expression unreadable, equal parts amusement and curiosity. I clutched the gift bag a little tighter, suddenly feeling absurd. This wasn't a birthday party or a celebration. This was, what? A gathering? A performance? A secret? "Lola," he said at last, voice low and smooth, like warm honey. "Didn't expect to see you here. I didn't expect to be here," I admitted, my voice quieter than I intended. He stepped toward me, the low amber lighting catching the lines of his body. I noticed then, other people were similarly dressed, or rather undressed. Silks, lace, leather. Soft skin and sharp glances. It wasn't vulgar, it was beautiful, strange, intimate. Like stepping into someone's dream. My throat tightened. I thought this was... I trailed off, unsure how to finish the sentence. "A joke? A trap? A party?" he said, smiling. "It is. Just not the kind you're used to." He reached out and gently plucked the gift bag from my hand, setting it aside. "You look nervous," he said. "I am." "That's okay. It means you're paying attention." His fingers brushed a strand of hair from my cheek, the touch feather-light. It was bold, yet oddly reassuring. "Come," he said, offering his hand. "Let me show you around." I hesitated, caught between the door behind me and the unknown ahead. But something in me whispered, "Stay." So I took his hand. He led me through the crowd, past whispered conversations and slow, choreographed movements. Each room had a different energy, a different rhythm. Some people danced, others lounged, some simply watched. And all the while, Ryan stayed close, grounding, confident. I wasn't sure what I was part of yet, but I couldn't look away. We moved through a long hallway lined with velvet curtains, the air scented faintly of sandalwood and something floral. The sound of the music faded behind us, replaced by a softer hum, like breath held in anticipation. Ryan glanced at me, gauging my reaction. "Still good?" he asked. I nodded, though my heart raced. I wasn't sure what good even meant anymore, but I was here, and something about the surreal beauty of it all held me fast. He pulled back one of the curtains, revealing a room bathed in burgundy light. Inside were clusters of low couches, plush pillows, and intimate arrangements of people, talking, touching, simply existing without shame. Everything moved slowly, deliberately, like a living painting. "What is this place?" I whispered. "It's a sanctuary," he said, "a place where people let go of their masks." A woman passed us, draped in emerald silk, her gaze brushing mine with something like invitation. I looked away, unsure how to meet that kind of openness. Ryan didn't rush me. He simply guided me to an empty settee tucked into a corner and gestured for me to sit. As I sank into the cushions, I realized I hadn't breathed deeply since stepping through the front door. Now the air felt different, warmer, denser, but oddly safe. He sat beside me, close but not crowding. "You don't have to do anything," he said gently. "Just feel. Let yourself be curious." I looked around again, at the grace, the confidence, the vulnerability. No one was hiding here? Not really. "Is this normal?" I asked. "No," Ryan said, smiling. "That's the point." I wasn't sure if I belonged here yet, but for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like running. I felt like watching, learning, becoming. We sat in comfortable stillness for a while, the kind that stretches without tension. Around us, quiet conversations bloomed like petals. Soft words, soft touches, soft laughter. No one demanded attention, yet every moment felt intentional. "I feel like I'm intruding," I said finally, unsure if I should whisper. Ryan turned toward me. "You're not. Everyone here came in feeling exactly like you do. Like I'm wearing the wrong costume to the wrong stage?" He chuckled. "Exactly. But give it time. This place, it changes you." I studied his face. He looked so sure of himself, so calm in this strange world that bent rules I didn't even know could be broken. I wondered what story brought him here, what version of him first walked through that door. As if sensing my curiosity, he said, "I used to be scared of spaces like this. Vulnerability wasn't in my vocabulary. I thought control was power. And now? Now I think surrender is a kind of power too. The quiet kind." I absorbed his words slowly. They stirred something in me, an ache I hadn't named yet. I'd spent so long keeping things tightly wrapped. My desires, my doubts, my dreams. Control had always been my armor. But here, people wore their truths like silk. Fluid. Free. A woman. Across the room caught my eye. She was tracing letters onto a man's bare shoulder, spelling something only he could read. He smiled, eyes closed, fully present. No phones, no small talk, just raw, unscripted moments. "Can I ask you something?" I said to Ryan. "Anything." "What's the purpose of all this?" He looked at me, serious now. "To remind you who you are, when no one's watching or judging." And for the first time, I wasn't afraid to find out. Eventually, Ryan stood and offered his hand again. "There's one more room I want you to see." I hesitated, then rose. The mansion felt like a labyrinth of intention, each space designed to peel back layers I hadn't known I wore. He led me up a narrow staircase, quieter than the rest of the house. As we climbed, the bass of the music faded entirely. At the top, a single black door stood slightly ajar. He pushed it open, and we stepped inside. The room was empty, except for mirrors. Mirrors on every wall, every angle. Floor to ceiling. I could see myself from all sides, multiplied endlessly. It was disorienting, at first. My reflection stared back in dozens of directions, and I didn't know where to focus. Ryan closed the door behind us. "This room's different," he said. "It's not about the others. It's about you." I swallowed hard. What am I supposed to do? Nothing. Just look. He stepped back, letting me move on my own. I approached one of the mirrors, staring into the face I knew too well. Except now, I wasn't sure it was mine. My eyes looked hesitant. My lips were pressed too tightly. How long had I been this guarded? I turned slowly, watching different versions of myself follow. In one mirror, I looked afraid. In another, curious. In a third, something softer. Possibility. Behind me, Ryan said, "The first time I stood here, I cried." Why? Because I realized I'd never really looked at myself without expectation, just seen who I was. I took a breath and met my own gaze. No labels, no roles, no masks. Just me. And strangely, I didn't turn away. We stayed in the mirror room longer than I expected. Not speaking, not touching, just reflecting, in every sense of the word. There was something sacred about that stillness, like shedding skin you didn't realize you'd outgrown. When we finally left, I felt lighter. Not like a transformation had happened, but like one had quietly begun. Ryan didn't speak until we were halfway back down the stairs. "You okay?" "I think so," I said, then laughed nervously. "Maybe better than okay. Just raw." That's how you know it's real. Back downstairs, the atmosphere had shifted. The music had slowed to a pulse. People moved with less urgency. I saw couples curled into each other on couches, groups laughing in whispers, others sitting alone, deep in thought. "Where's Jenna?" I asked suddenly. I'd come, here thinking this was her party. But now I wasn't sure if she'd ever even been here. Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Jenna invited you?" "Sort of. I got a text. No name, just an address and a time. I assumed." He shook his head, smiling slightly. "Interesting?" "What?" "People don't usually get invited here unless they're ready. Someone must think you are." The implication sent a thrill up my spine. Who had chosen me for this? And why? He led me to a quieter room, smaller, candle-lit, with floor cushions instead of furniture. A circle of people sat there, eyes closed, hands loosely linked, breathing together in rhythm. "Want to join?" he asked softly. "I don't know what to do." "You don't have to, just be." So I did. I sat. I closed my eyes, and I let the rhythm of strangers, no, seekers, pull me into something deeper. I wasn't observing anymore. I was participating. My palms rested on my knees, open, eyes shut, breathing in sync with strangers I hadn't even spoken to. And yet, in that moment, I felt more connected than I ever had in a crowded room. The silence wasn't empty. It was alive. I felt the heat of the person beside me. Not invasive, just present. There was no touching, no words, just the shared pulse of being. I couldn't explain it, but I didn't want to. Time folded in on itself. Minutes passed, maybe more. When I opened my eyes, the candles seemed brighter, the air sharper. I felt cleansed, like something had been wrung from me. Ryan was still beside me, eyes closed, expression peaceful. And in that moment, I didn't want to ask questions. I didn't want explanations. I just wanted to feel this. When the circle quietly broke apart, he stood, offering his hand again. I took it. Back in the hallway, I said, "How did you find this place?" "I didn't," he said. "It found me." We walked in silence for a while. Then he stopped beside a closed door and looked at me differently this time, not teasing, not guiding, searching. "Behind this door is choice," he said. "Not pressure, not expectation, just possibility. You've seen what this place is. If you're done, I'll walk you out, no judgment. If you stay, you'll understand even more." I stared at the door. Some part of me wanted to run. But a louder part, the part that had sat in stillness and found something true, wanted to know what was behind it. I took a breath. "I want to stay," I said. Ryan smiled. Not triumphantly. Gently. Then he opened the door. And everything changed. The door creaked open into a space washed in soft amber light, the walls draped in silks that moved gently with the breeze of hidden fans. The air was thicker here, not stifling, but intimate. There was a hush, like the room expected reverence, and maybe I did too. Inside were only a few people, each in their own quiet world. Some sat in conversation, eyes locked with their partners. Others stood in silence, simply breathing the same air, holding space for one another. It wasn't about spectacle here. It was about presence. Ryan stepped aside, letting me enter first. He didn't follow immediately. It was my decision now. My space. I walked slowly, reverently, until I reached a curved bench beneath a sheer canopy. I sat, fingers pressed together in my lap. I expected nervousness, but what settled over me instead was clarity. He joined me moments later, his movements unhurried. "You feel different," he said softly. "I think I do." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "This room isn't for showing off. It's for seeing. And being seen." I met his gaze. There was no performance in it, just sincerity. "You've been watching yourself change all night," he added. "Now, you get to decide who you want to become." His words landed like a key in a lock. I looked around the room again, not at the bodies or the silk or the shadows, but at the openness, the courage, the choice to be here fully. "I've always been afraid of taking up space," I whispered. "Of being too much, or not enough." He reached out, not to pull me in, but to offer his palm. "Then take up space now, with intention." And this time I didn't hesitate. I placed my hand in his. The moment I placed my hand in his, something subtle but powerful shifted. Not in the room, nothing about the light or sound changed, but inside me. A quiet unraveling, a soft blooming. Ryan didn't pull me closer. He simply held my hand like it meant something. Like I meant something. "I don't think I've ever really been touched like this," I said, surprising myself with the honesty. "Most of us haven't," he replied. "We get used to touch that asks something from us instead of offering something to us." That struck a chord deep in my chest. He guided our joined hands to rest between us, then looked at me. Not hungrily, not possessively, but like I was a mystery worth knowing slowly. It wasn't about seduction. It was about attention, and it made me feel whole. I leaned back against the cushions, letting the silk canopy filter the golden light across my skin. I felt myself soften, finally. My shoulders dropped. My breath deepened. I wasn't performing. I wasn't protecting. I was just being. Ryan watched, respectful and steady. "This place," I murmured, "isn't what I thought it would be." He smiled. "It never is. I thought it would be wild. Shocking. Oh, it can be. But the real power is in moments like this, where you strip everything else away and realize you're allowed to want things, to need, to be." That word echoed in my mind. Allowed. It felt like a gift. I turned to him, not out of obligation, but out of truth. "I want to be seen." His hand tightened gently around mine. "Then, let yourself be." In that stillness, I finally understood. I hadn't stumbled into a party. I'd walked into a mirror, and now I was stepping through it. We stayed beneath the canopy until the night began to thin. The mansion grew quieter, the energy mellowing into something calm and sacred. The people who remained moved like echoes, gentler now, changed in ways I was only beginning to understand. Eventually, I stood. My legs were steady, my heart clear. Ryan rose beside me, silent but watchful, as if waiting to see what I would choose. "I think I'm ready to go," I said. He nodded, no disappointment in his eyes. "Then I'll walk you out." We didn't speak as we moved through the house. Again. Every room I passed felt different now. Not because they'd changed, but because I had. I wasn't just seeing others. I was seeing myself, reflected in everything I'd once feared or misunderstood. The front door came into view, still slightly ajar as it had been when I first arrived. But now it no longer looked like an entrance into the unknown. It looked like a threshold I had crossed. Outside, the sky was just beginning to pale with early morning light. I turned to Ryan. "Was this real?" I asked. He didn't smile. He didn't tease. He just said, "It was yours. That makes it real." I stood there for a moment, letting the air fill my lungs. Then I walked to my car. Not because I was escaping, but because I had found what I didn't know I was searching for. Not a party, not a person, but a mirror, and the courage to finally look. As I drove away, the mansion faded in my rear view. But the version of me I met inside, she came with me. And she wasn't going anywhere.